so she could get out. It's not that bad actually. Outside.
Yeah, it looks worse than it is.
Yeah, actually, I don't think it's. We were expecting a lot worse. Okay, welcome everybody to Talking Niagara this morning. Welcome, but let's say snow overnight, so be careful on your morning drive. Obviously, the highways. Well, it's not snowing right now. The highways are likely to be clearer. But obviously, be careful when you're wherever you're going, right? And just take it easy, right? I'm probably going to be digging myself out at least a portion before leaving this morning, so I'll be a little bit late. How's things with you then, Dave?
Not bad. I was at Toastmasters last night. Very pleasant. I'll be speaking next week too. So I didn't speak last night. I spoke last week, and I will speak next week.
Okay.
So
are you prepping yourself up for a competition or something?
Well, the contest starts next week.
Aha.
And I don't have a speech ready.
Is this Is this the international speech contest or something else?
Yes, it is.
So this is the big one, and you don't have a speech.
This is the one I know I'm going to lose because I will not format my speech around what they typically want. They want a kind of an inspirational type of speech, kind of thing. The format is, I've seen some challenges, I've overcome them, and now I'm wonderful. It's kind of an inspirational kind of speech, kind of thing. It keeps going like that year after year, but I don't format my speeches like that.
So Gary says a comb is in order, Mr. Wills, but be safe out there today.
A what is a comb? Yeah. Gary and I. Where are you? Are you in town, Gary?
Yeah,
we got lunch.
Well, yeah, okay. Let him. He'll probably give us a comment later back if you're gonna. Yeah. Okay. So first item on the agenda. Got it last thing last night. Quebec Premier François Legault resigns. Now I'm going to depend a lot upon you about Quebec politics. He's the leader of Coalition Avenir Quebec, and they're currently lagging behind Parti Québécois in the polls. He's been premier for quite some time, hasn't he?
Well, they are he's pretty much forced to go because things haven't improved, and whatever he's done hasn't improved it. What they say they're going to do is they're going to get another leader after Legault. Now, Legault, I like Legault. I thought he was a pretty good guy, even though, of course, I don't agree with his separatist notions. I think Quebec could be better off as a semi-autonomous a region of Canada. I think that's probably the best route forward for them. However, of course, the idea of separation, Legault was a separatist, etc. And what he's done is he's done a lot of things to make the language nearly impossible to use any other language than French. You can't get an English translation. So but that's a problem, because if you want to buy property in Quebec, like some people I know, like one couple I know owns property in Quebec. Anytime they get any kind of communication of it, it's always in monolingual. Like up here, you'll get it in bilingual if you want it bilingual. There, you can't get it bilingual. You have to have monolingual, and it has to be French. There is no prompt on the phone for an English. So what happens, it discourages outside people from coming in, but it has also made everybody in Quebec quite happy, or at least they think they have.
Yeah.
What they've discovered, of course, is there's a gradual decline in the use of French. And, of course, English is the one that's encroaching. But the problem is everything has to be in French. So if you have a Chinese restaurant and you want to put a Chinese sign, you can't. You got to put a French sign. It's like ridiculous, So it's not just for English; it's for every language, but mostly for English. Anyway,
But why? But what?
the electorate is fed up with them. They see a stagnation in the polling, and he himself says, "I could see that the Quebecois that's the people of Quebec, want a change, and so he's stepping down to oblige them."
Yeah. So Coalition Avenir Quebec will just have a few months to choose a new leader. Does this mean that they are just essentially wiped out in the polls? Because they've got a vote scheduled for October the 5th, 26. So they've got essentially 9 months to get themselves back in order.
Yeah, they seem to have enough time to do it. I guess they think they do. And what they propose is they'll take their electorate, see if they can win the election. If they can win the election, they're going to hold another referendum.
Yeah.
But as we see by Quebec politics, only about a third of the people in Quebec want separation. 2/3 do not want it. And that's probably for practical reasons. They still want to be semi-autonomous, but or nearly completely autonomous. Basically.
Well, I think there's a difference between I think separatism is off the table, but I think that there's a generalized movement towards the need to recognize each of the provinces for the uniqueness that each of the provinces bring to the country, and kind of grant some almost semi-independent sovereignty to each of them, maybe setting the federation up slightly different. I think is what I've been seeing around a little bit, and for example, Ontario Alliance is calling for greater budget to come to, the budget for Ontario needs to represent the numbers of people that are in Ontario, the contribution that Ontario makes to the federal budget. And the more of that needs to go back to the province, and particularly back to the municipalities, which are usually starved of funds.
Well, that's kind of but I don't think Legault or the party has anything like that in mind. I think basically what they're thinking of really initially is, if we get a mandate, then we can ask for another referendum.
Yeah. But
it's doubtful that they would get that mandate, because what it looks like is the Liberals are getting actually stronger again in Quebec. And so the vote would be too split for them to be able to run a referendum and win it. And a lot of people just don't think referendum, even though they feel that the autonomy of Quebec is essential, that by removing themselves from Canada is not really that good of an idea.
No.
Because then, of course, then you lose all the guarantees, the pension guarantees, all the money that comes in from the feds and all that, and the equalization payments. We could, Trump wants Greenland. Trump wants Greenland. Maybe we can sell him Quebec.
Part of the argument, the last province on earth he'll want is Quebec.
I don't know. If we give him a big pile of gold and tell him how great he is, maybe he will buy Quebec. Then that's a bit of a problem off our shoulders there. You take it.
Yeah, but the thing is, does he then want to actually have to deal with a French-speaking province in North America when the guy probably doesn't even know Spanish?
Well, Trump is not exactly.
Have you ever know English?
Have you ever read Trump? Have you ever read Trump's speeches and the things he says?
Yeah, he doesn't
without him being there. I'm not so sure he knows English sometimes.
Yeah, I know.
It is a disjointed bunch of, it's greatest, the very greatest, the best, all this and all that. But when he sometimes he just doesn't, like, if you isolate his voice, like, and you just listen to exactly what he says, I'm not sure he says anything,
Yeah. No,
you know.
exactly. And
But anyway, he
that's an
wants
art form in
he
itself.
wants Greenland. Well, I'd say, look, why don't you let us take Greenland? You take Quebec.
Except we got to have a guaranteed Canadian Highway 1 across Quebec.
I don't know. It's up to them now. I've already sold it in my mind.
All right. Okay. Yeah. So basically, there's so currently the premier's lagging behind in the polls. Parti Québécois is well ahead, and all predictions are that Parti Québécois will likely romp home in October, unless, of course, the new leader turns it around. Do we have any new ideas upon who the new leader is?
No, yeah. Well, there was. I think there could be a couple of different candidates, but I don't know. I didn't look into that part of it. What would be the next leader coming up? But what is they're pretty much stale, basically, and the average person was not surprised at all that he's stepping down. They want him to move, and this is a surprise to me because, of course, I don't follow Quebec politics very closely, but I thought that guy was a decent guy. He made sense anytime he talked, even if I didn't agree with him. He was a smart fellow. He made sense. He was easy to talk with. It seemed to me with the different press individuals that might have talked to him. So I thought he was a decent dude. Maybe he is, but his policies have not been that effective.
Yeah.
And Quebec is facing the worst. I think it has the worst debt crisis of any province.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
things don't look good.
An answer for you, Dave. Gary's saying he'll be back on Saturday. Maybe Chuck's Roadhouse then. Talk Saturday.
Okay, sounds good, Gary. Sounds
All right.
good. I haven't worn it. I got to tell him I haven't worn a shirt. I'm afraid I'm going to spill something on it or something. I've got it. I just got to like it's a kind of a treasure, I don't want anything to happen to it.
Oh, frame it, Dave.
Yeah, maybe
Frame
bring it
it.
out on special occasions.
Yeah.
I'll put it under my suit jacket and when I go out, because it's more valuable than my shirt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, not my colored shirt, like not my loud shirt that Gary loves so much and is jealous of, but
All right. Moving on. Why we're going to be talking about this yesterday. Young Americans are increasingly rejecting the Democrats and the Republicans. There's a record high of independents registering in the U.S., and 45% of adults identified as politically independent, and highest percentage since Gallup began consistently tracking this metric in 1988. So it's the group now identifies self-identified Democrats and self-identified Republicans, who each accounted for 27% of Americans.
Yeah, we find here that 45% or nearly 50% of the American electorate right now are tracking as independents.
Yeah.
And only 27% are Republican, 27% are Democrat. Now, in among those independents, those are independents that lean more to the right and some that lean more to the left. But generally speaking, as a group, they're more centrist. Whether you're right of center or left of center, they're more centrist. They are balking their particular parties, and I don't blame them. The Republicans and the Democrats are just a bunch of rubbish. Like, you can see the Republicans now, they couldn't bow down. They're bowing down to the Lord and Master in the White House and kissing his boots all day long.
Yeah.
The Democrats are out in la la land, saying stuff that doesn't make any sense. And I mean, they're acting like elitists, still acting like elitists. So if you're a young person, you're going to look at those two parties and say, they're nothing but a bunch of rubbish. Let's start something different.
Yeah, and basically they talk about generational divide, and I hate it when people talk about generational divide because it's utter nonsense. But anyway, Gen Z, which they've called as 1997 to 2007, 56% identify as independent, and for millennials born 81 to 96, 54% identify as independent. Right. By contrast, for the boomers, 33% of independent, and for other the oldest generation of all, if there's any left, 30% are independent.
Well, talking to my American friends, I have my friend Pipes. She's an independent.
Yeah.
I don't know whether she used to be a Republican or a Democrat, whatever she used to be. I don't know what it was, but she got fed up with party politics and went independent. And it seems to me more and more people are doing that because party politics are getting them nowhere. Yeah. Any issue is Democrat or Republican, and there is no way in between. Well, like even in the public, if you're a Republican and if you're a Republican and you looked at that Renee Good getting shot in the face, like 77% of Republicans said she deserved it. 90-some% of Democrats said she didn't deserve it. There you have this split right down the middle, where nobody's going to wait for the facts. Everybody's going to make a determination. They're going to follow their party, no matter what the evidence shows or whatever the investigation shows. They're going to follow their party, and they're not. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
I mean, look at the White House makes a signal like, okay, we're Republicans, so guess what? We're going to say that Good was a beast and she was trying to run the guy down, and the guy that shot her in the face is a hero. So why did they do that? Right? Because they think they have to jump on the narrative right away.
Yeah. And my American friends have been telling me for years, one of the big problems that they don't like, and while they've been increasingly not voting across the board, why the polls have been falling. And these are people that, if you're talking about generations, which I hate talking about generations, are probably boomers or the next generation down from that. Yeah, I don't. But basically, the people are in there probably from about their 40s onwards. They're the ones who are saying that they've been increasingly discouraged by politics, because whichever party it comes to power, they say to you, yes, it's a priority. What you want is a priority for us. But when they get into power, the last thing they ever do is what was discussed on their policy sheet.
Well, what many people have said is the Republicans and Democrats are different sides of the same coin because they serve the wealthy. The Democrats serve the wealthy of one portion of the economy, and the Republicans serve the wealthy of another portion of the economy. We found that the vote was split between the oligarchs, the tech bros, and that went Republican because they figured they could get more out of the Republican Party by supporting them. The industrialists, the old the industrialist kind of old-fashioned part of the economy, they supported the Democrats. So you get money coming in from all over the place. But what it is they're going to serve the rich. They're going to serve the rich, the Republican rich or the Democrat rich. And the people get left out.
Yeah, and that's exactly what my American friends have been saying, and particularly the ones out of the West Coast, Seattle area. They are more and more angry about that, and they've been looking for some form of other alternative.
Yes, and the United States definitely needs a third party. Now, our parties up here can change well enough, but not radically. We saw the Trudeau government was just a pile of rubbish.
Yeah.
If you're talking about rubbish, and of course they was going to get destroyed in an election, and Polyev was going to be our new potentate. But along comes a fellow by the name of Carney, and what does he do? He steals all the talking points of the conservatives and pulls his party back into the center, and slowly but surely eliminates all the party members that were idealistic and ineffective, not practical. So what he has now, basically, he's got a very centrist party that appeals, despite what Pierre Poilievre might want to say, it does appeal to the center right and the center left. So if you're voting one day and you happen to be center right and you feel that Carney would do a better job than Poilievre, you might switch your vote that day.
Yeah.
But down there in the States, you have to pretty much be an independent to do that.
Yeah.
And they need another party for sure. And let's make sure too that the independents themselves are split between some that lean right and some that lean left.
Well, Gary is making a point that kids nowadays have zero clue how it was when we were younger, and it's kind of sickening. And I agree with him.
You mean politically wise?
Yeah. The politics has changed so much, and a lot of the kids today are pretty clueless on it.
My biggest problem is how much wealth is going to the wealthiest and how much of the economy they control. I think the top 10% of in the US is probably the same in Canada, but the top 10% did 50% of the spending. That's the top 10% did 50% of the spending of consumer spending in the United States last year. That means the other 50% is shared between all the rest of the 90% of the economy. So that tells you that the rich are getting way too rich, and that power is being translated through the money they can give to political campaigns. And that's my real issue, but it happens both ways too. You find the Koch brothers handing money over to the Republicans, and you find George Soros handed it over to the Democrats. They say it kind of balance each other out, but each one is looking for favors, and make no mistake about that.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and that's what's corrupt about how our political system is. That the political parties are fighting for power. They don't really care. The policy is only there because they have to sell their party to the people for an election time. They don't really care about policy. It's power they care about. When the party that's not in power is seeking to return to power. And this is as true of our parties as it is of the American parties.
Well, it's easier in the States because they only have two parties.
Yeah.
So you pick a side. Well, and there is no. But now, because of the independents, the rising amount of independents, that makes it less likely that you can buy a party and then buy an election, because you have this group called the independents. Whether that independent leads a little right or leads a little left, that's the equation you can't jump on. As I said before, almost every issue you look at now, whether it is Rene Good getting shot in the face or any other thing, going to Greenland, going to Venezuela, you'll find that those MAGA people or the Republicans, they'll vote with the president 100% kind of, and all the Democrats will vote against it. But in that independent group, they are very centrist. They like what they like and they don't like what they don't like. Like the independents would most likely vote against invasion of Greenland, but may vote for the invasion of Venezuela. They might see the difference between the two, but the other traditional parties can't see the difference. It's either yes, no, black, white, Democrat, Republican. But the independents, they have their own mind. Let's put it that way.
All right. Gary has brought up a thing and says, thoughts on the killing in Calgary, guys. I myself am so proud of her for defending herself. I'm going to say I know nothing about it, so I'm not going to comment.
I didn't know about a killing either. When did that happen? Was that happen yesterday?
let's look it up and see what we can find out, and maybe talk about that tomorrow.
Okay,
I
we
presume
will.
it's a political type killing, like the good one.
I thought I heard something on the radio about killing out, but I thought it was a one that happened a long time ago. Well, I got
Well,
mixed up
Betty
with that.
doesn't know about it either, so let's do some digging into it. Maybe talk about it tomorrow. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on. Trump is basically saying we don't need cars made in Canada, and CUSA's irrelevant.
Yeah. Yeah. He's wrong about that because the small businesses, the small businesses in the United States are suing the federal government, along with 12 different states are suing the U.S. government on tariffs. Obviously, the small businesses believe they need CUSMA. The tariffs that have happened because of Trump's tariffs have affected small businesses much more than anyone else, and that's why small businesses are getting together to fight the tariffs.
Yeah.
But this idea, of course, he's played tough guy. We don't need it anyway, and he wants people to come and beg and tell him how wonderful he is and give him a piece of gold with his name on it or something like that. Call him King Donnie, whatever. But because that's the way he works, right? He threatens a lot. He beats his chest. He tells everybody they got no cards, whatever. But I think he will find a strain on the economy because I believe what most of the economists have said that the CUSMA agreement or the USMCA, whatever is called in the States, is the envy of the world. You have three nations that transmit goods and cargo back and forth and make those items much cheaper for the consumers of all countries, of all those three countries. There are flaws with the system. It has to be redressed every once in a while, but all in all, it's one of the best things going. Yeah. But what Trump wants to do, I think he just wants to have Canada all together and just take Canada. And first, he's going to start with Greenland, start with a little piece with nobody on it. He could bully them, no problem. He could send in his Delta Force and kill everybody in Greenland in 25 minutes. And, and I wouldn't put it past him. Anyway, and then build a big statue to himself,
Yeah, well.
But anyway, whatever. He's using this as a pressure tactic. He's making it very clear. I'm the boss. We're the boss. Come begging, and maybe I will look at you. The problem here is he made the deal that was the greatest deal of all time. He said himself, the greatest trade deal of all time back in his last administration.
Yep.
And he doesn't even seem to understand what the effects of
no, that was an Obama or a Biden era. They forced him into doing it. The sandwich of Biden and Obama forced him into doing it.
No, not really. No.
I'm just joking about that one,
Yeah. Well. Yeah. So I don't know. I think I'm going to drive him crazy. I'm going to send him a little gold statue of Obama, the greatest president of all time.
I don't believe even Obama is, but
no. The one thing, Trump. Most of the time, I disagree with Trump handily, economically, all kinds of things. There's a couple of things I do agree with him, and he did get Canada and NATO off their arse and start investing in their own defense, which was a very good thing in my mind. He might have done it for selfish reasons, but it did us a favor. And the other thing is, like, I don't blame him for wanting a Nobel Peace Prize for doing nothing, because Obama got one for doing nothing.
Yeah. All right. We'll come back. We'll come back to more on a little bit more on Charis in a little while. Just didn't want to pass this one by. We talked about François Legault. Bonnie Crombie has stepped down as Liberal leader in Ontario, effective immediately.
Yes, apparently there was a review of her performance, and it was pretty lackluster. She got 57% vote to stay in as leader. You need 2/3, basically. You need above 60%, a good measure above 60%. Within your own caucus. And if you're getting 57%, it's lukewarm. And we can admit too here for Bonnie, it really is a bad time for an opposition leader.
Yeah,
because Ford is so strong. Ford is very strong, and he's in the headlines all the time, whether you like him or not. There's scandals surrounding him or whatever, but he's a powerful personality, and he's directed his
moment
into making the Ontario person wealthier, or at least that's what he says, and opening up Niagara. But who's not going to vote for him in the next election?
Yeah, at the moment, though, in this stage of Ford's government, he's been in power for quite some time. You would expect there to be both the opposition parties, NDP and Liberal, to have strong, powerful leaders that are almost in Parliament every day, slapping Ford around. That's what NDP NDP members need. That's what Liberal members need, right? Is their leadership up there in Parliament, slapping Ford around at every turn?
Right? Yeah, it's their job. But they are doing their job, but they're not getting any attention when they do it. And
they're not getting that because the Liberals are not getting that. They're not making any progress within Ontario at a provincial level.
Yes. Yeah. So even though they're doing their job and bringing up questionable things in Parliament, Queen's Park, there, nobody's listening to them because their voice isn't powerful enough. And as I said, it's a horrible time to be for Bonnie Crombie. I mean, she's stepping down here, but it was probably the worst time ever to be an opposition leader in Ontario when you did have a very powerful voice in Doug Ford, as he pretty much overwhelmed the electorate.
He did.
And the Liberals and the NDP were not prepared to counter him and haven't been prepared ever since. So Bonnie thinks probably a changing of the guard, just like Legault in Quebec. Time for a change. Time for change.
Well, and I would also say that my own personal analysis is that I think there could be more effective leaders than Merritt Stiles for the NDP as well.
I'm not so sure they're getting any kind of a chance. Like they're bringing
they're not.
They're bringing a toothpick to a sword fight every time they come in because they just haven't got enough press. They're way behind. It's like, I'm serious. Like they don't, they're bringing a mouse to a dog fight, so.
Yeah, exactly. And so we got problems, typically at this stage after several years, couple of elections, etc., the leading party, who's been leading for a couple of elections now, would be starting to falter, and the opposition parties would be making advantages of every move where the Empower party falters. The Empower party falters at the moment with the Ford government, but what happens is he kind of says, "Oh, I'm sorry about that. We made a mistake. Let's get on with this now," right?
Yeah, he's in some ways he's getting away with murder there. That whole green space thing and all that, and getting his buddies hunks of land and all that other stuff. He got away with that, and he's got away with a few other things. But the problem is, he wouldn't have got away with it if the parties that were facing him, would have the confidence of the electorate, and they do not.
Yes.
So and my feeling is that, like, the Liberals and the NDP have got to learn to come back into the center a bit. They have to be parties that are pragmatic. Number one, when you get into government, you have to be able to run government. You don't run it on ideals. You run it on practicals.
Yeah.
We have to, like analogous, we have to get the roads done. And then everybody comes out and says, well, environmental whatever, and which is part of their base. They're going to have to say, look, yeah, you may be right about the environmental impact this road is going to make, but this road has to be put in here because there are people over there, and they need to get goods there. They need to get ambulances there or whatever. So that kind of thing has to happen.
Yeah.
Right now, the Liberals and the NDP are not practical parties that are seen to be able to govern practically and pragmatically. But as we saw how Carney has changed the Liberals in Ottawa. He's turned them into a bunch of flakes to people that are more concentrated on real things to do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Ricky Pizzacala is asking the question, do you think she will run for mayor of Mississauga again? That's a very good, interesting question.
It's you're quite right about that. I didn't think about that. Well, like they do down here when a federal party leader then becomes a mayor or becomes another regional member. Well, for some reason I can't remember the NDP leader that became the mayor of Hamilton there. What's her name?
Howarth?
Hobart.
Hobart. Yeah.
So I would expect like when Nicholson got knocked out here, he went right to the region, and then when the Conservatives were strong again, he went back to Ottawa.
Yeah,
I think the same thing. Look at Chairman Bradley. He was a wheel for the Liberals, and he came down here. So they have political experience. So there's other places they could serve the public.
Well, I would say very absolutely Crombie will probably go back to the mayoral role that she once had. Yes,
probably she may be going back to the mayoral role. She may find some other political avenue in which to. But when you get into municipalities and stuff like that, then the party politics are much less intrusive.
There's another.
You are basically down to the brass tacks. How much money do we have, and where do we spend it? And there's
another possibility, of course, here, Dave, is that maybe she stands for a federal Liberal seat, like one that's going to be coming up in 6 months' time.
Possibly, I would doubt it though.
In central Toronto, right? No, it's a possibility. I'm just talking possibilities here.
Yep.
Right. We don't know. Good luck to her, whatever she decides to do. It's clear the Liberals are ineffective at a provincial level here in Ontario, and they need to turn that around if they're ever going to form a future government.
What she needs to do is go down to Washington, talk to Don, and say, how can you make me great again?
Oh my God. Okay, moving on. Donald Trump warns of a mess if the Supreme Court rejects his tariffs.
Yes, his IEEPA tariffs. Not all tariffs, but the IEEPA tariffs, which were most of them lately. We've seen that Trump's had various successes and failures with those. He failed miserably with China. He tried to bluff China. He says, "You got to come and talk to me now." Throws 145% tariffs on him. What did China do? Say, Nope,
Up
we're going to
yours.
fight you. We're going to fight it out. We're going to fight it out. We're not going to do anything. We're going to see who's the last man standing. We're going to give you 125% tariffs. In other words, there's just an embargo on your goods and an embargo on our goods. And we're just going to sit it out and see who's the last man standing. Well, that made them pretty nervous. And they and they begged for a meeting in Switzerland, and they got one, and Trump backed down. But then when he tried it again, then they said, okay, yeah, you want to be Mr. Tough Guy? No rare earths for you. Bye-bye. And then he came back and he turned himself back. So if you're tough, if you've got the muscle, right, you can face up to Trump, but most countries don't have that muscle. So
well,
I don't know.
Basically, the Supreme Court is making this decision about, as you said, International Emergency Economic Powers Act, and a coalition of 12 states, Arizona, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Illinois, Maine, Minnesota, Nevada, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, and Vermont, sued the Trump administration to block these tariffs, which is why it's in front of the Supreme Court right now.
Yeah, so those 12 states, and there's probably a bunch of other states there that are Republican that really want that to happen, but they're afraid of it to happen. Remember, the Republican, the red states, most of the 9 out of the 10 poorest states in the U.S. are red states. 9 out of the 10 that have the worst economy are red states, and the reason why you might not get red states joining this group is because they're afraid of what Trump might do to them, or they're just being party loyal or whatever. So this is, and of course, the small businesses.
And three of these states border Canada. One borders Mexico, of course.
That's Arizona, yeah. Well, what is very clear there, and you'll find
New Mexico borders.
Yeah, New Mexico also borders New Mexico. Yeah, so there are clear indications there that this is not good. But with the Supreme Court, they're trying as hard as they can to do anything they can for Trump. At least the 6 MAGA judges are, and the 6 MAGA judges will do anything they possibly can for Trump.
Let me be very clear. I believe this is one of those issues whereby it's going to be traditional conservative lawmaking laws and precedent that is going to sway the day here.
I'm saying that there's going to be levels of that, and they are going to try to make it as MAGA friendly as possible. It's very clear that these laws are not legal. What Trump has done with IEPA is not legal. Even Fox is starting to say that, they'll probably lose the case. I mean, up until now, they've been thumping their chest saying
I think they will, and I think the Supreme Court. I think it might well be 5-4.
I think the biggest one of the biggest issues for the Supreme Court is how the money has to be returned. And when Trump says it's going to be a big mess, that means the money has to be returned. So the Supreme Court cannot make the ruling based on the fact that they took money they shouldn't have, and now because it's going to be a problem, they don't have to give it back, or that kind of thing. The truth of it is, Trump has used the IEPA wrong. IEPA is meant to single out a company or a country that is a individual threat to the United States and do that. So you could do that against Iran, or you could do it against Yemen, or somewhere where you can make it as a threat.
But not against Canada or Mexico.
So
but not against Canada or Mexico.
Even the Senate
already pre-existing treaties.
The Senate has ruled against. It's a symbolic ruling, but the Senate has ruled against turning their back on CUSA. The Senate has made a symbolic vote that says CUSA should not be discontinued is too important to the American economy, and and so that's part of it. And even though that they have six MAGA judges, six out of the nine are MAGA judges, and they tend to lean as hard as they can towards MAGA in all other rulings up until now. This is one that's going to be very clear for everyone, basically, that it is something to do with the Constitution. He has not obliged the Constitution correctly. Now, these tariffs can come back on later through other means, but the way he's done it is illegal. And it's most likely that the Supreme Court is going to rule against him. It's just to what degree that they are going to do that. They're going to make it as easy as possible for the president because they're MAGA. They're MAGA just like him. They're driven more by ideology than by fair play. But there's certain things they can't ignore, and that's the Constitution.
Right.
And I can't see them getting around this one.
Again, Randy is making the point that return of what was collected because Trump must still have trillions because he wants to give it away all over, and then impeach Trump. It's far more scary how difficult it seems to be to get rid of Trump. Yeah.
Well, right now his party is terrified of him, and that's basically why he's getting away with what he's doing.
Moving. Anything else on that one? Sorry.
The only other thing there is I think I think the Supreme Court's going to rule against him. That's all.
I do think the Supreme Court's going to rule against him. I think it's going to be 5-4. Right, the closest, or maybe 4-3 with one abstention.
I think it's going to be at least 8-1. I think it's going to be at least 8-1, maybe even 9-0, because the Constitution is very clear on these points.
Go on, Dave.
Yeah, I'm saying that it should be 9-0 against Trump and against the tariffs, because the Constitution is very clear how they interpret how that will have to be paid back or whatever, or which of the IEPA, they may have to go point by point, which IEPA pronouncements are wrong and which ones are right.
They will go point by point.
They may be able to find one or two that IEPA will stand, but for the pronouncements by IEPA towards tariffs from Trump, they'll find that almost all of them are illegal.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to come from 9-0.
I don't believe it will be 9-0. I think it will be close. And I think you will find 1 or 2 points that will be granted.
It seems to be there is some anxiety about how this is going to pay back and the kind of mess that it would cause if it's being paid back. But I can't really see them ruling, oh, well, we got to let this, it's against the Constitution, but we got to let it happen this time because it's going to be troublesome to pay back everybody who paid this that shouldn't have had to pay it.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Anything else on tariffs?
Nothing except that it's generally speaking, there should be no tariffs between Canada, Mexico, and the United States. That's just bad thinking. But the other tariffs, maybe they're more justified. Who knows? But we'll see what the Supreme Court says. It'll be pretty interesting.
Yeah. All right. So we're listening out for that particular judgment at some time in the near future. Okay.
I will say this, though. I will say one last thing, that if the Supreme Court comes down on the side of President Trump on this, when it's very clearly a breach of the Constitution, they just made themselves irrelevant.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So First Nations peoples out of Northern Ontario have evacuated to Niagara Falls, and likely about 2,300 people from Saskatchewan on James Bay. Most of them are heading for Niagara Falls as they're trying to sort out the latest water and sewage problems in their community.
Yeah. So sadly, there's been water and sewage problems. The sewage and water problems come from the water and sewage freezing. What's happened is there was a massive power outage into the settlement, and the water doesn't flow. Of course, it's pretty cold up there. So first thing that's happened is pipes burst, and sewage freezes. What they've done is they've sent in an army guy, right, with the army, the Canadian Army specialist to go in to see what they can do, probably from the engineering unit, to see how they can fix things up. But in the meantime, where are these people going to go? Yeah. We found that a lot of hotels were opened up to the Indigenous here in Niagara Falls.
Well, that's what
which is a good use of them. Because when there was fires up there, remember when those fires were up there? So
that's exactly that's exactly what they're hoping for. About 2,300 people are looking to come here, where they're hoping hotel rooms will be available.
Well, they should be this time of year.
Yeah.
And supposedly the refugees have left. They're supposed to have been gone by now. I have my doubts about that. The government never likes to tell you if their plans have really happened. There were the refugee people that came from Quebec via the border there. What is it, Roxham Road? We came into in Niagara Falls and were housed here.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be going into other housing, getting off.
They've all supposed to have gotten off of the state-funded housing. Still, a few may well be left. I was speaking to a refugee a while back. Actually, he came into our office for a consultation, and they were having landlord and tenant issues, right? So, most are out of the hotels now.
Well, yeah, but I still think that the Canadian government is feeding them money. None of that's come up. Like, where are these people going and who's paying for it?
Yeah.
Obviously, not all of them got jobs. The government will try to find them as many jobs as they can.
Oh, the one I spoke to had job.
What job did he have?
I didn't really do. It wasn't a matter of what we were talking about, so it didn't matter.
Okay. So there's lots of jobs that can be filled, but not ones like, I don't know how many of these people, the Roxham Road people, had skills when they came over.
Yeah,
but
didn't explore any of that.
Hoping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't explore any of that and couldn't say even if I did explore that kind of stuff, right? It was a simple matter. We were talking about their particular landlord and tenant type issues, and so that just came up because we were talking about.
But anyway, for a long story short, you can argue whether or not the refugees was a good thing to do here in Niagara Falls.
It's a different matter.
But you cannot argue that it's a good thing that the Indigenous community has come down here to find a stopgap between getting their plumbing fixed up north. So the power outage up north caused everything to freeze up there, and there's no water, no sewage, and there's going to be a major fix. So in the meantime, where do the people go? Well, this is a very good idea to bring them down here because we have a lot of hotels.
Yep.
And so, we can protect them that way. We can bring them down here. We can house them because it's going to take probably weeks for anything to get fixed up there, even if you send the army in. And things are not in that great a condition either. I bet you any money way up there, they are in bad shape, generally speaking.
Yeah.
From anyone that I've heard of who's gone to these places, things are in ramshackle repair anyway. So if the
Oh,
army goes in, they might find more to do than they even think they're going to do.
yeah. And basically, Randy is saying tens of millions have been given to these areas to build infrastructure over the years. How did they, uh, how did they spend it? Right?
Well, in this particular
Yeah.
case, it was, you can't really blame them because the power went out, and once the power went out, there was no substitute generators. You would
Yeah.
think they would have gasoline-driven generators until the power was fixed, but I guess nobody thought of that. I don't know why.
Don't know.
Um, like you would think that would be the number one thing everyone would do. Like being in a
You'd
remote
think.
place like that, and you lose your power, you start up your gas and diesel generators to fill in the gap until your power comes back on. But
Yeah.
evidently that didn't happen.
All right. Very quick one, by the way, before we leave. France is set to launch a Greenland consulate.
Yes, and NATO's are signaling that they might send troops to Greenland. They are going to send their ships there. When it
Germany's
turns
already.
out that when Trump says that that the Russians and the Chinese are all over Greenland, it's a big fat lie. It's just another
Yeah.
one of Trump's lies because everybody's now looking for where these Chinese and Russian ships are. They're nowhere to be found.
Well,
The only Chinese ship that has come close to Greenland lately is a scientific ship, and that but and the last time a Chinese warship came anywhere near Greenland was 10 years ago.
yeah.
And the United States, who used to have 10,000 troops on Greenland, pulled them all out and left only 200. So all of a sudden, Greenland is this place that must be annexed by the United States to protect it. Well, the United States has not been protecting it. It had 10,000 troops and a treaty to do that, and they pulled out their troops.
Yeah.
So if they thought it was so important, how come they pulled out 10,000 troops?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. They've got all kinds of little bases there all over Greenland that are empty now, but they were all American. And NATO is responsible for it. The Greenlanders have said this, but let me point this out, and I'll point this out at the end of the show. There's called the Melian fact, basically. It is this that strong nations will do what they want to do, and the weak nations must suffer what they have to. So he says the powerful nations will do what they can, and the weaker nations will suffer what they must.
Yeah.
And that comes from a time, and it is part of the realistic politics that's out there these days, that if you want to talk about justice and what's fair and what's right, you can do that if you're talking to a person of the same power or country of the same power. So China and the United States can talk about what's fair between both of them, but China won't talk about what's fair to both of them to Taiwan because it's much bigger and it wants to take it over. In other words, that the only negotiation that can happen is between peers of power.
Yeah.
And this comes from the Athenians. When the Athenians went to the island of Melos and said, "We're going to take you over and you're going to pay us money and you're going to help us with our wars." And Melos was a neutral island, and they said, "No, we don't want to do that. We're neutral. We don't get messed around with anybody's business. We're no threat to you and everything." And that's against our culture. That's against everything. You're doing everything wrong. And the Athenians just said, "Look, you can say all that too, all you want, but you haven't got anywhere near the power we do. So we're not going to negotiate with you. We're going to tell you what to do because the rich will do what they, the powerful will do what they can, and the weak will suffer what they must." And the Melosians, or if that's the right word, but the people of the island of Melos thought that because they had justice on their side and they had ethics on their side, the Athenians came and wiped them all out, killed all the men, and sold the women and children into slavery. So it didn't matter what was right or wrong. It mattered who was stronger.
Yeah.
And that's where Trump's doing right now.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Okay. And that's, of course, why the European Union and France, being part of the European Union, are taking these actions to protect Greenland.
Yes, and more NATO troops are supposed to be coming. We'll see about that.
That will take time. That will take time, but Germany's already headed that way. They've got 2 ships headed that way.
Yeah, it has to happen. If there has to be NATO bases put up there, Senator Kennedy said invading a NATO ally and annexing the Greenland would be weapons grade stupid.
Yeah.
And he said, and Trump's not weapon grade stupid. I'm not so sure he knows the guy.
All right. We're going to have to call it quits at that one.
All right. Without further ado, I bid you adieu. Pray for peace and don't forget Gaza or Ukraine.
All right.